So yesterday we talked about packages and modules. Today we are going to start something new, which is input and output. So you have already been using input and output, but we are discussing another way to take inputs into a Python program.
Going more in depth.
Yeah, a little bit more in depth. How we can input using another way. Okay, so first of all, command line arguments. So what are the command line arguments? These are the values entered by a user when running a program from a command line or from a terminal. So command line exists in some program execution environments wherein user can run a program by typing at a command prompt, just like you run the code by typing Python, the file name, and after the file name you actually pass the arguments. Passing the arguments means that just like when you call a function, you pass the arguments within parentheses, right? So here when you run the Python script, you type Python or Python 3, whatever you're running, however your Python is configured on your system, and then you type the file name, Python file name, and then you provide the list of arguments. Okay, so example, suppose this is the Python is a command which is used to run the Python script, and this is the file name, sys argv-demo.py is the file name, and then we have the first argument CSE and the second argument 1010. Okay, so where do you think these arguments would go? So this is a procedure of providing an input to a Python script. So by default, the contents of this command line are automatically stored in the list, which is a built-in list named sys.argv. Okay, so do you think, do you have any idea of what this sys.argv represent? We have already talked about dot notations. Okay, so by just looking at it, I already mentioned that this is a list, and this list is located in some module called sys. Okay, so the argv is the built-in list that is already defined in a module named sys module. Okay, so sys is the built-in module. Whenever you install Python, it comes with it, just like a math module. Okay, so all the values that you pass in with the help of Python by running the Python command, everything is stored, you pass in will be stored in the argv list. So it consists of one string element for each argument typed on the command line, and the string elements are separated by the white space in between. Okay, and for example here, when we pass this sys Python sys argv-demo.py CSE10 or CSE2050 here in this example, this is considered as an entire string, and when we execute this string is parsed into the number of elements in it, separated by white space, and all the elements are arranged as the elements in the list. So when executing a program, as I said, interpreter parse the entire command line to find all the sequences of characters separated by white space, and store each of them as a string within the list variable argv. So again, the same example for above commands, contents of argv list would be this. So Python is actually a command. The first argument is the file name, which would be placed at the 0th index in this file in this list. Okay, CSE is the second one, and 1010 is the third element in the list. Okay, again argv, you can call it as argument values. Okay, so it's a list which contains the arguments that you pass through the command line. Okay, and the first argument would always be the file name. Okay, so let me show you this as an example. So first of all, in order to use the built-in variable or argv, which is defined in built-in list, which is defined in the sys module, I need to import the sys module first. Agreed? If I have to use something which is defined in another module, I have to import it first. And then I have the code written like this, sys.argv0, argv1. What I'm doing here, I'm accessing the elements of argv list by their index, right? This is how we access the elements in the list, right? With the help of indexing. So argv0 would correspond to the file name. argv1 would correspond to this first argument that we are passing in, and the second argument. Okay, so your file name is like file name, and we can just print it out. When we execute this instruction or execute this file by passing additional arguments, your code would extract the values from the argv list and print it on the screen. Okay.